Good morning and happy Monday, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining. The market is not looking good so far. So we are definitely seeing a decent amount of selling pressure. The Santa rally is looking a little bit rough right now. There's a lot of fear with the Omicron variant kind of getting out of control, and long story short, people are selling off, and it's just it's not a good start. But the good news is that we are starting to see some of the COVID stocks like Zoom, Peloton, and Teladoc start to explode a little bit. Zoom especially is looking very, very well. And then even Fastly's not holding up as well, but I would say mainly Zoom. So we're definitely set for an interesting week. We have a short week. But Tom, what are you seeing in the market so far?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like you said, the main headlines are all these COVID plays. We're seeing Zoom flying up to the upside with all the Omicron fear going on. Obviously, that's going to be pretty good for Zoom if people, start using Zoom a lot more than going face to face. And, whenever we're looking at these COVID plays, I saw some pretty good news come out of Moderna this morning, and we can see they're actually starting to fly up pretty drastically, going above 300, even passing all the way up above 320 right now with an explosive move. They came out and said that their booster shot should protect against the new variant. So that's good. That's a good sign there. I know Pfizer came out with that news a couple weeks ago, and they've also kind of been flying to the upside. They look like they're doing pretty good as well. But Mike, like you said, the highlight of the market today is these COVID plays. And then on the other hand, we have stocks like Apple gapping down a pretty significant amount.
Exactly. So we're definitely set for an interesting week. We have a short week because of Christmas, so there's no trading on Friday. So definitely very interesting. And let's see. I'm Fierce said good morning and start of the Christmas week. There we go. I know some people are eyeing up the VIX. Like I know Ant85 said, is today a good day to buy some shares of VXX? And it really depends. Like if you're looking to, bet against the market falling, then yeah, the VXX can be really good. But if you're just only holding shares of DraftKings and Zoom, you don't want to be buying the VIX because it can be very, very possible for, let's say DraftKings and Zoom to fall and the VIX to also fall. So if you have exposure to the S&P 500, the VIX can be pretty good. Or if you're just looking to bet against the market, the VXX is definitely a potential play.
Yeah, it is. And those shares can do pretty well, especially in the shorter term. Never hold these shares for a longer term. Never hold them more than a few weeks, a couple weeks, something like that, because generally the VXX always goes down over time, as we can see. That's just kind of how it's made to be. But it can be really good for these shorter term plays, kind of like with what we're going to see probably this week. But, honestly, the VIX moves quite a bit, Mike. It looks like it's already gapped up 9%. How would you kind of explain someone to play this? Because while it did already gap up 9%, if the market keeps going down, the VXX can pop a lot more.
Absolutely. So basically, my whole watch list is red right now, Tom. So what a great start to the week. But besides Zoom, that's green. Besides that, everything else is selling off in a pretty big way. We have RUN down 10%, Apple down 2%, Enphase down 5%. Corsair struggling, Tesla struggling, so it's looking pretty rough. Today might be a put kind of day. Maybe we eye up some plays that are breaking support and join the puts. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, AMC's kind of holding up there, which I guess is okay.
Yeah, that's decent. It's kind of staying there. If it breaks back above 30 or $30.71, like that high of Friday, people might get pretty excited about AMC. And Mike, I know that everyone's been hyping up this new Spider-Man movie. We always talk about maybe it'll just take a good show or a good movie to help some of these companies out. And, maybe that's helping AMC in the short term. But, just keep in mind, guys, AMC is going to be super, super risky. I wouldn't be buying it just because of, the hype coming out of the Spider-Man movie. But in the end, if it does end up breaking that high, I think it could be a pretty good, very fast day trade. But it's just cool to see, it's actually holding its ground when a lot of these other stocks are falling.
True. All right. And then we have, let's see. We have Kathy saying, good morning. Where's our Santa rally? I don't know. I mean, it was looking pretty good last week, but, the momentum just completely reversed. It's what's going on? And it's not like we're seeing just a slow downfall here. Some of these stocks are down 10%. I mean, the NASDAQ itself is down 1.5%, and we're 2 minutes into open. So I don't know, but I hope it comes around soon because it's definitely kind of like a letdown to the heading into the end of the year.
Yeah, it is. And hey, it looks like Apple's coming up over the past like 60 seconds. So that's a good sign. At least we're kind of, going back on the uptrend. It looks like the QQQ might be turning back around. But man, you're right. Everyone was looking for this Santa rally this week. And the market really, I think, disappointed a lot of traders this morning. Everyone woke up and what did we wake up to? The QQQ gap down, Apple gap below support. We have Microsoft gapping down too. It's just they are coming back up now, but it's just been a really tough morning so far. And some stocks I've been really watching, Mike, like Boeing, took a very drastic drop to the downside. Actually, on the daily chart, if we go look at it, they kind of broke below that support right there that they were holding. So this is definitely not a good sign for Boeing, which I was honestly eyeing up right there for maybe a double bottom. So looks like we'll have to kind of, look for a better entry somewhere lower.
Yeah, and then Star said bounce and spy with the question mark. It very can bounce, but I don't think that's the move right now. Like a lot of times when the market gaps down, let's say 1.5% or 2% or whatever, like you'll naturally see a slight bounce up, but like we could see even on Friday, like it gapped down a decent amount, and then in the middle of the day, it just shot up out of nowhere. But it just like ended up slowly coming back down anyways. So I don't think buying the dip on the SPY right now is the move. I think buying the dip on growth stocks are the move. There's a ton of them out there. We talk about them literally every day. Like you could say DraftKings, Zoom, Corsair, Run, maybe Teladoc, Palantir, AI, stuff like that. They're at much better levels, and some of these like leading S&P 500 stocks are pretty overbought, and they definitely have some room to fall. So I don't think buying the dip on the SPY right now is necessarily the move for like I guess you could say like a medium-term trade or even a short-term trade. Like historically speaking, the SPY runs up a ton, but I just feel like you could get into some better plays with arguably lower risk and arguably higher return, given some of like the prices we're seeing in the market.
Yeah, some of these prices are crazy. Like if you pick up some of these growth stocks down here at their lows, like let's just pick a random one like Corsair. If we just pick them and they start to go up, they don't even need to get back up to all-time highs before you're sitting at like a 100% gain. And, I'm not saying we're going to get all the way back up to $40, but in the end though, that's a pretty big, move to the upside, especially percentage-wise. Like, obviously if you could make 90% year over year, that would be amazing. That would be some amazing growth. So hopefully we see that happen and these stocks start to bounce. But, I just think it's such a great price point, Mike. Like you said, arguably there's just so much more I think more percentages that you can make with these lower price stocks. Obviously you can buy the SPY and it can always go back up, but we're only like 3 or 4% from the all-time high right now. We're not even that far off.
Exactly. And then Bravo asked if we are in a bear market. No, we're not in a bear market. Investopedia and a couple other companies and institutions define a bear market as a drop of 20% or more. So we definitely have a lot to go until we get to that point. But I will say it's not a good start to the week. There's definitely some increased selling pressure. And like Hunter mentioned, he said that GDP forecast sliced again after being sliced 50% a few months ago. So, we definitely have some relatively bad news out with the Omicron fears, and then, like Tom has pulled up, Goldman cutting the GDP forecast. So it's just not looking too good, but not quite a bear market.
Yeah, it's not quite a bear market. What I would almost describe it as is just more of like we're just in a downtrend right now. Like we triple topped up here around like 473 to 475. We're just in a bit of a downtrend. And I will say if we fall below 450, like Mike said, there's obviously some actual definitions defining a bear market. But if we break below 450, I could see the market selling off pretty drastically, especially in the short term. Like Mike said, it's not a bear market, but I would just call it like a downtrend.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and then we have Spacely joining, saying top of the morning. Thanks for joining, Spacely. And I just want to welcome everyone to the stream really quickly. Thank you guys so much for joining. Welcome Hunter, Mac, I'm Fierce, and Kathy, George, Star, Bill, Matt, Mike, and Bravo and Spacely. Thank you guys so much for joining, and let us know what stocks you're watching. So far today, lots of selling pressure. I have one stock on my watch list that's green. That's Zoom. It was up a lot more at open, and it's kind of pulling back right now, which is unfortunate to see. We were blasting right through that $200 resistance, and now it looks like we're retesting it as support.
Yeah, it does actually. That support looks like it might hold up today as like a very good intraday level. So if we see Zoom start to bounce again, it could be a pretty good price point right here. Maybe for like some quicker options or something. Always be careful though, because that turnaround at open was pretty drastic. But I'll be honest, Mike, like I've been eyeing up Zoom a lot, especially since Friday with that crazy move. And this might be the type of entry we're looking for here, maybe right at 200, especially if it ends up holding up a little bit later in the day too.
True that. Alrighty, so I'm gonna do a quick scan to see what plays we have moving, just for like maybe like some quick intraday plays. Let me just pull up the scanner really quickly. It's loading right now, but Tom, do you have like any favorite setups right now, whether it be like short term or long term?
Yeah, I will say in the short term, it looks like these oil stocks, Mike, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, they are starting to actually hit this resistance and go down. It took a long time for them to finally start to fall drastically, but man, they're all the way back down to $58. In Exxon and Mobil's case, we can see Chevron is starting to fall down. If they fall below 110, that's going to be a pretty big support that they fell through. So definitely eye these up. And we're actually seeing crude oil take a bit of a dip heading into the holiday season. You know, I know that Biden and a few countries have been trying to force the price of oil down, and it looks like it's kind of working. So hopefully this ends up, playing out at the pump for people too.
True that. We have Hunter saying Tesla at the $900 level. Let's check it out. So Tesla's down 3%. They're retesting the $900 support. I'll say Tesla has had a wild ride over the past year. Like, it started the year at like $900, fell all the way down to $540, slowly came back up to like $900, and then exploded from $900 up to $1,250, and now we're back at $900. Like, it has been all over the place, but it's been pretty good overall.
Yeah, it has. It's been doing decent, even though it pulled back a little bit now. Like this year, of course, it's not going to, if we end up closing the year around like 888 or something, we're not going to make too much year over year. But, like right now we're up like 28%. That's pretty good. Obviously, if we were at the high here, we'd be up 73% since the beginning of the year. So that would make for, obviously a lot better numbers. But since we're closing down here, they're not going to post the insane growth that people are probably looking for. But in the end, though, 25% still amazing. And if you look over the past couple years, it's like 1,000-something%. So, they've been on fire, and you have to expect them to kind of slow down like they did a little bit.
True that. All right, and then Bravo said, I own MDT. It's a good company, but look at the stock. MDT, yeah, it looks like they've been struggling quite a bit. One thing to keep in mind is a lot of stocks have been taking a pretty big hit over the past 2 or 3 months. So honestly, I don't really follow this company too much. But Tom, it looks like it just broke below, what is that, the 1,000 SMA?
Yeah, it broke below the 1,000 SMA, and it's actually moving right below the key like $100 psychological level too. So you got like 2 huge levels that it's falling below, and it just doesn't seem like a good sign in the short term. But sometimes these medical companies, they could just have one good piece of news turn their stock right around. So maybe if they're working on something, it could be a good hold or something. But in the end, it looks like they're on a pretty bad downtrend here.
For sure. All right. Tom, I just did a quick scan. It looks like we're definitely seeing some selling pressure out of companies like Facebook. Looks like they are getting pretty close, or they're breaking their low of day right now, and they're down nearly 3%, which I guess you could say is kind of uncommon. Like you don't see a company like Facebook down 3% every day.
Yeah, not all the time. It looks like over the past few months, I will say they've been kind of stuck in this consolidation area. They've been almost between this range of like 300 and 350, and it looks like they've been just moving up and down between that. I don't know. It kind of looks like a pretty bad move to the downside to me, especially on the daily chart. Whenever we go intraday, of course, it's going to look awful. But, man, that daily chart doesn't look too good. And if we end up falling below like this wick right here, right at like 324, it's not going to be a good sign today.
Yeah, it does look pretty rough. Like you said, Facebook has been in like this like downtrend over the past couple weeks or the past couple months. And It's definitely looking pretty weak. So definitely keep that one on your radar for like a potential play to the downside. Another one I saw is Rivian, Tom. This one is it's not breaking down just yet, but we're close. Like it does have a really strong support right around like 92.60. It touched that level a couple times and it was like kind of holding like 94 this morning in pre-market. So like I feel like we're close to a breakdown, but we're not there just yet.
Yeah, I could definitely see that one coming at some point today, to be honest. We're pretty close. And like you said, we got very close here at open and it looks like it's heading down. So I could definitely see it breaking where it looks like we're bouncing off a lot of these SMAs on the intraday chart and failing to break out above those also. So that's a great sign. And if we end up breaking below 92.62, that low of Friday, I think we could definitely see this one go down. Mike, those earnings were awful out of Rivian. I just couldn't believe we saw a negative 12 EPS come across, and then they missed the production of like those 1,200 vehicles. Man, it was just not a good time for them. But hopefully their stock starts to go back up eventually. But man, on the daily chart, I could definitely see it keep going lower. Even if it continues up today, I feel like over the next like week we might continue to see some pressure on it.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of work to do to back up their valuation, but their truck is pretty cool.
It is. I actually love the truck. I actually was someone arguing that their valuation was actually, I actually argued that their valuation could be pretty good, but in the end, it looks like their stock's moving pretty bad. And I was really hoping that they would at least come out with some good production numbers or something. But just like everybody else, unfortunately, they took some hits with these, chip delays and different issues like with the microchips.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's been definitely hurting a lot of companies that the shortage, especially with chips. But another company that's kind of breaking down today is J.P. Morgan. The banks have been all over the place, Tom, especially after that FOMC conference. Like they were looking good for like a day or two, and then now they're just like in free fall almost. Like it's down 2.5%. It's a pretty big move. IV starting to rise, so this one doesn't look bad for like maybe like a couple day swing, maybe a couple week swing to the downside. Some other bank stocks are definitely struggling, like Bank of America, Citigroup. Oh wow, Citigroup's really struggling, and then Goldman's even taking a hit.
Yeah, GS has been one of the better ones financially, and I'll tell you what, they actually are falling through a pretty big support there around 375. I think that's a pretty big move by them. And look at this on Bank of America, actually. They've been kind of following this blue trend line for the past almost 2 or 3 years now to the upside. It's been failing to break below this. And, it did break below it like 1 or 2 times, then go right back up. And, today we are finally breaking below it again. And I'll tell you, look at the volume coming in today. There's more volume coming in today than has came in all year for Bank of America. So I think that's a pretty big sign. I think everyone should definitely take a look at these bank stocks. That's a big thing, Mike. And I know that after Powell spoke last week, I was pretty adamant and happy to see these banks going up. And now that they turned around like this, that's a bad sign. And, we actually saw the SPY even go up after Powell spoke, and it also turned around. So I don't know what happened. Like the day he spoke, the market had a lot of optimism to the upside, but in after hours and then the day after, it just tanked right back down. So I don't know exactly like if the market was initially happy with his tone and then it started looking at, everything going on with the asset purchasing and then the rates going up and different stuff like that in the near future. So I don't know what's been happening, but I was pretty happy to see the banks going up. And this turnaround, I think, is a pretty bad sign, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and then we have Bravo referring to DraftKings. So he said, so DraftKings gained 6% on Friday. Don't you think it's a buy? NFL season playoffs incoming, and people who sit at home due to COVID would gamble. Yeah, I love DraftKings. It's probably my favorite long-term play. I think it's definitely a buy at this level. I love it for the long term, and I think they have a ton of growth potential. And it definitely sucks to see like the short term movement that we saw with it, how it went from like 60 down to 30. But then again, it gives us a huge opportunity to scoop up shares at a great price for the long term. So it's kind of like a curse, kind of like a blessing, but I love it for the long term.
Yeah, me too. And, they had some unfortunate stuff go on, like with that Entain deal that just ended up not going the way that they wanted. even in the end, it made them drop initially, and then they had to scrap the deal overall. So it just ended up being like a double whammy for them. That was obviously bad. They've had some bad earnings, but I will say, though, their revenue's not too bad. And the thing that I really like about DraftKings is that, throughout the future, like we've always been talking about, Mike, they're investing heavily right now in growth and getting their name out there. Like they're advertising everywhere. They sponsor the MLB, the NBA, the NFL, like the NHL, like you name it. You see DraftKings almost everywhere on every sports thing you can watch, and it's a huge company. I feel like it'll do pretty good in the long term. And like he said, with Zoom and some of these companies doing better, DraftKings might get a bit of a boost up if people are at home as well, because obviously, more people are going to be watching games and betting and also all that type of stuff.
Absolutely. All right, and then we have Bravo saying, can you look at bonds, TNX? Yeah, I mean, it's not really moving too much. It's not really moving too much today. There's not too much to say about it right now. So, yeah, I mean, there's not really too much to say about it right now. But yeah, I mean, it's the TNX is down like 1.5% today. I've really been watching like TLT and JNK the most out of anything. I'm relatively bearish on like JNK and HYG, which are like junk bonds. So I think they're going to be like the first ones to take a hit when rates really do start to rise. And the options pricing on like HYG and JNK it's crazy. Like the implied volatility is only 10%. And when you compare that to like any other asset, I mean, it's pretty low. Now I do know bonds move very, very slowly, and that would explain the low implied volatility, but I'm just really watching JNK and HYG for a potential play with bonds. Welcome Vicky to the stream. Thanks for joining, Dennis. Merry Christmas. But yeah, I mean, so far, Tom, we're definitely seeing a good amount of selling pressure. How's the SPY doing?
Honestly, it's not doing too good. But let's go look at it intraday. Maybe it's coming back up, but nope, it looks like it is starting to turn back over to the downside. I know at market open, it looked like we had some volatility, like lots of like green and red candles mixed, but it looked like it was going to try to go up maybe. But we are definitely seeing that turnaround back to the downside. I wonder how the QQQ looks. The QQQ looks like it's turning up a little bit, so maybe tech stocks are coming back. I remember Apple was kind of coming back up for a while, and it looks like they are still kind of on the uptrend. But keep in mind, they gapped down so much that they might come up and hit like the 170 resistance and come flying right back down. So always look at that as a possibility of it coming back. And I will say the SPY doesn't look too good with Apple kind of going up. I will say the SPY is kind of turning over a lot more than like the QQQ is.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely looking pretty rough. And I think something that's pretty interesting is while we have the SPY down 1.5%, and we have certain companies like Facebook down, let's say, almost 3%. Some of these beaten down growth plays like Chewy are actually holding up. Like, I know it's not a lot, and I know Chewy has struggled a lot over the past year, but I personally think we're going to get to a point where we're going to see the market maybe go flat, maybe not really move too much, maybe fall a little bit, and then some of these growth plays that have just been getting destroyed, like Chewy or DraftKings or Redfin or Zoom or whatever, I think that's when we're going to see them pop up because, they can only fall for so much, and at the end of the day, we just see rotations every couple months or so. So you know what I mean? Like all of these huge companies like Apple and Microsoft and Facebook, they're great, huge, profitable companies, but every now and then we see rotations out of them and into different areas of the market. And I think the growth area will be the next rotation.
Yeah, I think so too. And one good thing to look at, Mike, is let's go back and look at Apple. The last time it had a major drop to the downside, and I would say it was back in like August of like 2020. You can see the like Apple here hit this big resistance around like 140, took a pretty big drop all the way down to around $100. That's a pretty big drop for a stock like Apple. And let's go see how DraftKings was doing around August of that time. And you can actually see, look at this. Look at DraftKings starting to actually get that explosion during August of that time. So that's very interesting to see DraftKings starting to go up whenever Apple was kind of going very flat throughout that time and staying between that range. So that just goes to show that, we might see that transition, and hopefully it comes faster than later, or sooner than later. I think that, we've been waiting for it for a long time. And Obviously a lot of traders, it's hard for them to kind of look at this in like that type of like macroeconomic sense, because it's more of like a swing with the overall market as well. Like obviously the SPY will probably start to consolidate a little bit and different stuff like that. So obviously it's kind of like a macroeconomic thing where some stocks, like you'll just see that transition out of like the bigger tech stocks into these lower price stocks eventually. And it's just something that happens every few years. And I will say a lot of people miss it when it does happen. So let's try to, really keep it on the radar so that we can take full advantage of it this time.
Absolutely. There we go. So, I mean, we covered most of the main stocks so far. Like, are you seeing like any great setups, or like what are you seeing? What are you thinking with the market? I know we have a short week, so I don't know. What are you seeing?
One of the stocks that I saw today, Mike, that is green again, and I have been loving this stock, is CLX. Clorox once again is up 2.8%, getting a nice move to the upside. They already filled the gap on the daily chart here. They're already back up to like this 180 resistance. If we start to break out above this week, it could be an amazing move. And I love this company for the longer term. They did take a big hit to the downside, of course, just like like lots of stocks have over the past 6 months, but they are going back up. And the thing that I really like about this company is that with the inflation going up and with consumer pricing going up, it's going to make their products cost more money, and they can obviously start to raise prices and stuff like that to take advantage of this market. And I think it's going to help stocks like CLX and stocks like Kraft Heinz and even stocks like Nestle go back to the upside. I know Nestle's been doing pretty good, but CLX and KHC are moving down quite a bit. And man, they're doing pretty well today, up 3%. They're actually leading my watch list with Moderna in second place, up 2.4%. And you can see Moderna had a huge pullback here at open.
Gotcha. So speaking of Moderna, Bravo just asked about it, and like they've been doing very, very well over the past year, and I know that with Omicron surging, it can be very good for Moderna. But in terms of a short-term play, it's definitely not for me. And I would say the biggest problem is today it's up 2%, and that's awesome. But at open, this thing was at, what is that, $320. Now it's right at the 300 support. So it's like, if I'm going to play this for the short term, like I want to see that like momentum. I want to see that like I want to see those buyers coming in and driving the price up. But like, it's about to give back all of its gains that it had from pre-market. You know what I mean? So it's just definitely not a short-term play for me. For the long term, it could be decent, especially with all these new variants that will come out in the future and that have already been released, I guess you could say, like especially with Omicron. So I just feel like it's not a great opportunity. Like Moderna, yeah, they're a huge company now, but I just feel like it's not an amazing, amazing opportunity. For the long term, it can be good, like I said, but even at that point, like I don't feel like it's at an amazing price. And then for the short term, there's not really any momentum. So it's just not really for me.
Yeah, there's just not too much momentum right now in the short term. One stock that's done very well is Pfizer. Like let's look at Pfizer, and you can see how well they've been rising to the upside, continuing to break new highs. They've been looking awesome. And then we see Moderna, and we see an earnings where they dropped from $340 all the way down to like $212. And then they flew right back up, and then they went right back down. Like this stock is all over the place. I hope that it ends up going up with this good vaccine news, kind of like Pfizer's been having for the past few weeks. But in the end, though, you can just tell that it's all over the place compared to some of their competitors. And, I'm not saying to go out and buy Pfizer either, because it's pretty high right now. And I would say, to be honest, all these vaccine stocks are fairly high given, where they've been over the past few years. And obviously, like if COVID starts to go away, even in the slightest bit, it's going to hurt these companies. But like Mike said, it seems like that these variants are, everlasting. Like every time one goes away, we have another one come out, and, who knows how long it's going to be like this for.
Yep. All right. So then we have Dennis saying thoughts on NVIDIA. So it's really, really hard to bet against NVIDIA, but I think they're pretty overbought, and I'm not like super bearish on them, but I am bearish on just like the chip space overall, just temporarily. And it's really hard to bet against the chip space because it's used in basically everything. I just think it's a little bit overbought right now, and especially with the market being a little bit showing a little bit more weakness than normal. I just feel like it can like slowly fall off. I'm definitely not expecting this to like crash down or anything like that. I've actually been wanting to buy the dip on this one forever, but it just keeps on rising, and I kind of miss my opportunity. So long story short, I just feel like it's going to slowly just pull back just a little bit, and I think it's slightly overbought. And it's not just NVIDIA. Like, you could also argue AMD, maybe ASML, maybe Qualcomm, companies like that.
Yeah, I think I could see that pullback happening as well. I've been looking for one on these stocks for quite a while, and they just keep showing their strength. Like, it looks like they're going to finally break below supports, and then they go flying right back up. They're definitely powerhouse stocks. And one cool thing to see is that the IV is starting to get pretty high, which means that there's probably going to be a pretty big move one way or the other pretty soon. So hopefully something starts to give. But in the end, whenever we saw NVIDIA this morning, they kind of fell right below support and looked pretty bad, I'll be honest. They fell below 275 all the way down to 265. Looks like they're kind of coming back up to retest 280 right now. But man, I could definitely see this one going down. Like Mike said, I don't see it crashing, but I could see it coming down and maybe retesting like this 250 support, maybe somewhere around there. Just keep in mind, these stocks have been on fire this year, and we've had all these chip delays and chip problems, but at the same time, the demand has been so high. Like with these NVIDIA graphics cards and stuff, the second they come out, you have tons of bots and all these things buying them up right away. And this makes the prices crazy. Like graphics cards that should be $1,000 are selling for like $2,000 right now. So, these things are kind of insane, and the pricing has gotten kind of crazy. And I feel like that as the pricing starts to go back down, or as the demand starts to diminish a little bit, these stocks will take a bit of a hit, but for the longer term, they'll go right back up. Obviously they always come out with some new innovations, and they're being used in all these electric cars. And the big thing with NVIDIA, and I know Mike knows this, but this stuff runs AI systems. Like this runs like Tesla cars and all types of stuff like that. So it's used in a lot of applications.
Yep. And then we have Ironical saying, believe it or not, CCL is going up. So there we go. CCL is looking pretty decent. It's up like 1.5% today, which is pretty good. I know cruise lines have been taking a beating lately. So, I mean, it's good to see this momentum, but it definitely has a lot of work to do to like get back to its, I don't know, I guess you could say recent highs around $30 or so. And it's not a bad play. I like RCL a little bit more, but they're pretty similar overall. And it looks like they had earnings this morning.
Yeah, it looks like they did have earnings. Let me pull it up really fast here just to kind of, see like what we're working with. I'm looking at it on the Thinkorswim news tab, of course, but yeah, looking at it, I mean, it says that they actually had a net loss in Q4 of $2 billion.
No, it expects that. It expects the net loss. Expects the net loss.
Let's go see. So
yeah.
Yeah, it says right here, Benzinga Carnival Q4 adjusted net loss $2 billion. Company ended quarter with $9.4 billion of liquidity. So it looks like they did come in with that, which is not good to see. Yeah, it does say they expect net losses for 1H of 22. So for the first half, and then profits for the second half. So that's good to see that they expect profits in the second half of 2022. That's great, because as we get to the second half, that'll kind of be like those summer months and stuff like that. So hopefully that really does happen. And, if these variants and stuff go away, I think that could be great. But, obviously the Q4 numbers aren't good, but hey, this company needs a good outlook, not a good short term. Obviously like over the winter here is not going to make or break them by any means.
Exactly. So there we go. I mean, how are the other cruise lines looking, Tom? Like, I know CCL's up 2%, but how are the other ones doing?
Yeah, RCL looks good. Like you said earlier, RCL is probably my favorite one as well. I like them a lot. Actually, they're bouncing off like right around some key support levels. So looks pretty good. And I'll be honest, with all the Omicron fears and all that, I never expected to see these stocks in the green today. I wonder how the airlines look. Even Delta Airlines is coming back up. Like, I don't know what got into these stocks, Mike, but I guess they like the Omicron. I don't know.
Oh, gosh. Crazy stuff. All right. And then we have Bravo saying, how about infrastructure build better, bad news? I mean, TAN EVs down. So, Yeah, I know that's been pretty bad, especially for these solar companies. The TAN is a solar ETF, and then even like looking at like Caterpillar, like Tom had pulled up, like that's taking a hit today as well. So it's definitely not good. And I would say more than anything, like a lot of these solar companies have been getting destroyed lately. Like RUN is taking a beating, and then even Enphase, which is such a powerhouse, is all the way back down to 180.
Yeah, wow. Enphase, I cannot believe they're down that much, Mike. Like this might be a pretty good opportunity here pretty soon. Like if they end up falling below, like you said, this 180 to like 175 support, who knows? They might end up going down towards like 150. And I'll definitely be selling some puts or getting some shares down there. I mean, man, this company has been so, they were on fire for so long there, Mike. I just never expected a pullback this drastically. Maybe I thought they'd, maybe come down to like 200 or something, but they ended up going down quite a bit.
True that. All right. And then we have Matt saying Netflix rising. So let's take a look. NFLX. Looks like it's up like 1.5% today. So, yeah, I mean, it's doing pretty decent. I mean, it looks like a decent opportunity.
Yeah, it does. Like when I look at this 1 hour chart, like this longer term chart, it looks like they are kind of consolidating here. And, if we do start to see that Santa rally this week, Netflix will probably be a pretty good stock. And, one thing to keep in mind is that if we're seeing all these other plays like Zoom and everything else go up, obviously like the COVID plays, Netflix and those streaming services did pretty well during that time too. So maybe they'll start to go back up. And Mike, that actually makes me think maybe that'll help Disney actually. And it looks like it didn't today yet, but it might over the next few weeks.
True that. And then we have Derek saying, good morning all. DDOG had a nice open. So I haven't been following this one too much, but it's definitely been holding its ground pretty well, like especially over the past couple months, Tom. Like I know a lot of stocks have been struggling, but this one seems to be doing pretty good.
Yeah, I will say it's down, quite a bit percentage wise from its highs, but compared to most stuff, it's doing very, very well. Like Mike said, it is down like 17%, which honestly, whenever you look at how much movement there's been, that's not too much. I really like how it's holding its support there around 160. And you're right, this one's been holding up very nicely. It actually had a ton of volume come in. Is this today or Friday? One of the 2 days. I believe it's today, though. No, it was on Friday. But yeah, lots of volume came into this one on Friday. And I really hope to see this one start to go back up soon. I know that this stock, Mike, has been a powerhouse. DDOG, and then there was another like AI company that was also like kind of following along with them for the past few years as well.
Here we go. And then we have Vicky saying levels above 240 for Roku. So let's see, Roku, and she said levels above 240. So what resistance levels do you have above 240, Tom?
Above 240, it looks like the major one is going to be $300 even. Of course, there's probably going to be a little bit of ones in between there, but the major one is definitely going to be right around 300 even. We can see that was definitely getting a lot of touches there. I'm definitely seeing another resistance. Let's see right where it is exactly, like right at the top of this like candlestick almost here, right around like 265 to 266. I see another one. So there's definitely a few coming up. And if we break above 240, maybe a good move up to like 260 to 266 could be good.
There we go. And then we have Vicky saying California change in legislation for solar companies removing incentives. Yeah, I was reading a little bit into that, and it's definitely been hurting a lot of these solar company stocks, but I guess it can be a pretty good buying opportunity. Enphase is a pretty solid company. I know there's a lot of them out there, like Tom has FSLR pulled up. We have Run, we have Enphase, and they're definitely taking a hit. And there's always that TAN ETF, the TAN ETF, where if you buy that, you're essentially just scooping up a bunch of them for, I guess you could say, just one security.
Yeah, and one of the ETFs, Mike, I've been eyeing up a lot lately, and I know people have been really hitting on this lady a lot lately, but ARKK has been looking pretty enticing to buy here. It's kind of like TAN, it's been moving down quite a bit. Not quite. TAN's been holding up a little bit better, but ARKK is looking pretty decent in its own right, and it looks like it actually is. It is red today, down 1%, but the candle's green, and it does look like it might start to come back up after that huge move it had Friday.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I mean, there's not really too much going on this second. The only thing I see that's pretty notable is like Netflix breaking out.
Yeah, Netflix, CCL, those two stocks are like leading my watch list right now. I can't believe that they're moving up this drastically, especially the cruise lines. Netflix makes a lot more sense to me than the cruise lines do, but I guess those good earnings or that good outlook next year might have helped, to be honest. Like if I once they saw that they expected to be profitable in the second half of next year, that's amazing news for stocks like CCL and RCL. Obviously they haven't been profitable in a while, so that'll really help them. But looking at Netflix here, I think it looks pretty great. It kind of broke that high of Friday this morning. And, I'm not sure how much more they're going to go up today. They're already up quite a bit. I would think maybe they could come retest like this 605 resistance, but I wouldn't see them going too much higher than that one today.
For sure. All right, there we go. Zoom's trying to come back up or at least hold its ground, which is good. It was looking so good this morning, and right at market open, it just like gave back all of its gains. So that's good to see. It looks like AI is kind of shifting up there. Chewy's holding its ground pretty well, but it looks like a pretty tough day for like short-term trades.
Yeah, it does. Just almost like everything's in the red today, unfortunately. Even Chewy, like these stocks that are going up, like with everything else in the red, it's hard to play into the upside too, because if we start to see everything fall back down, then these ones will probably be pulling back, kind of like what we're starting to see with Chewy as it got to that resistance up there. So hopefully we start to see breakouts pretty soon. And Mike, I know everyone's looking for the Santa rally this week. I really hope to see it come back, but as of right now, it's not looking too promising. But, obviously stuff can change as the week goes on, but it just sucks to see these big stocks down. Like, honestly, like to me, the bigger movers are what's making me the most sad. Like we're seeing Tesla, moving down, and they're just failing to get some good momentum. Looks like stocks like Apple are turning back over. Like it was looking like for a while, Apple was kind of going up, but they're turning over. Microsoft, I'm sure, is turning right back over. Yup, they're kind of turning over too. So it just sucks to see the big market makers moving down, which, that's just, it hasn't been happening too much lately, but I feel like that we got to see that transition soon. Like if we see these stocks like Apple down, I really want to see stocks like DraftKings start to go in the green, but it kind of looks like today it might happen, but who knows? It's just, I hope that this week starts to really change some stuff. And I'll be honest, I think 2022 will be a lot different.
I agree. There we go. Then we have Derek saying Roblox is at that psychological level at 100. So, yeah, it's definitely a good point. Looking at Roblox, they're right at that $100 level, and they've taken a bit of a hit lately. They were at 140 just like a month ago or a couple weeks ago, and now they're at 100. So it's been pretty rough. But then again, they're a growth company, and a lot of volatility comes along with that. So we'll see what happens. But this one probably won't be too bad for a dip buy. Personally, I would just like to see it fall a little bit more, and then maybe I'll sell some puts on it or something like that.
Yeah, and it is still below $100. Keep in mind, like he said, it's kind of right around there. It looks like it's kind of going right back up above there. But if we do see it go down, I think it could be a good dip buy, like Mike said. And they initially, like when they IPO'd, they had a lot of momentum to the upside. I remember, Mike, it was pretty crazy to see them get up towards $100 like they did. It kind of blew my mind. And then they started coming back down to reality, in my opinion. And then then they had that explosion up with the metaverse, and it was crazy to see them move up like that. And lots of people were like, man, how could a game that I played when I was like 5 years old, be running up like this right now? And me and Mike actually did some good research on this company, and man, their daily or monthly active user counts are like in the 200 millions right now. Like it's pretty crazy how many people play this game, to be honest.
They're doing pretty good. So Hunter said, I hope growth stays around this low for a little bit so I can keep buying more. I just don't want it to keep tanking. So I definitely know what you mean. It's like you want it to like not crash, but you just want it to like linger around here for a little bit so you can keep buying more. And I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. But honestly, I can I wouldn't mind if it goes up a little bit. I feel like the past couple of weeks have been pretty brutal, and I'm looking for that like momentum change. Like I feel like we're definitely towards the end of the disaster that we've been through over the past couple of months, and like the past, I guess you could say the past couple of months have been such a blessing and a curse. Like no one loves to see their favorite stock down 50% from a recent high, and then at the same time, it's like, all right, well, if this drop would have never happened, then I wouldn't have been able to buy more. So it's crazy. Hunter said I need a dopamine hit. There we go. So, Tom, do you have any last minute plays or thoughts or anything heading into the week?
Oh man, I'm really hoping to pick up more stocks down here lower, kind of like what Hunter said, like it's always good to see it stay there for a little while. Like obviously I'm already, I've been buying up quite a bit, but I really hope that it sticks around for a little while longer. Mike, I really hope to get some Zoom soon. I've been buying up all these companies, and Zoom's one I haven't picked up any of yet. And, with the way they moved up today, it's pretty tempting, to grab some here right around $200. Obviously they could go a little bit lower, but man, I feel like that there's just such a good opportunity. And, it's almost like a hedge, like even if you have other longer term plays too, if Omicron gets bad and we start to see, shutdowns or whatever happens, Zoom might do pretty well. And, if the other stocks do bad and Zoom starts to pop up during that time, that'll obviously help them. Zoom's been going down because of bad outlooks, because of, COVID going away and stuff. And if we start to see all this crazy stuff coming back, they might have maybe a good outlook. So maybe that'll be a good thing for them. And honestly, I just can't wait to buy more down here. Like Hunter said, I feel like that there's going to be lots of opportunities, and hopefully we see the opportunities stay around a little bit longer. But, like you said, Mike, I hope they also go up. So it's kind of like 50-50. One I've really been looking at, Mike, is Boeing, and it looks like they are kind of coming back up today. But like I said earlier, that move down this morning was pretty drastic.
For sure. Well, thank you guys so much for joining the stream today. We're set to have a crazy week, especially given the holiday. There's going to be no trading on Friday because of Christmas. So we're definitely set for an interesting week. Thank you guys so much for joining, and have an amazing rest of your day.